too complex, much too complex, too complex, much too complex, too complex, too complex, too complex.
In part 2 of this episode of Not on My Watch, featuring Stacey Abrams and Senator Cory Booker, Stacey Abrams, the gubernatorial candidate for the state of Georgia, now takes questions from local residents in Castleberry Hill, a neighborhood in Atlanta, including concerns by small business owners, vets, retired police officers, and others.
My husband and I have 3 boys. 2 of them are right here. We have a president who's corrupt, who has encouraged violence against men that are arrested, bump their head, treat them roughly. And then there are instances of police who are using brutal practices against people of color. I cry every time I see a black child kicked, punched, shot by the police. My husband and I spend a lot of time trying to teach them how to be perfect, because I do not want that for them. President Trump thinks that white men are the ones that are under attack. It's not. It's these guys. It's everyone in this room. When you're governor, what can you do to make sure that the biases that are clearly deep into our police departments, that those are removed so that when our children are stopped by the police, they are not assumed to be guilty, but are treated with respect and assumed to be innocent?
Yeah. So I want to begin by saying this. Our law enforcement, by and large, are good men and good women who want what's best for us. If you've ever been to a community where there isn't law enforcement, you appreciate how important it is that we do have an organized group of people who stand up for us, who put their lives on the line. Just yesterday, an officer in Gwinnett County was shot dead trying to enforce the law. And so I begin this by saying that we have to respect the law enforcement has a tough job to do, but even they will tell you not everybody does their job well. That there are too many women like you, too many fathers like you, who worry about their children. I've got 2 brothers, both of whom were pulled over multiple times for being nothing but black. And so I am bullish on this issue. Number 1, our first responsibility is to reconnect law enforcement with our communities, because this has become too much of a distance between us. And when our children are afraid of those who have sworn to protect them, then something's not right. The governor of Georgia sets what's called the POST standards. That's the training that every law enforcement officer in Georgia, be it a state trooper, a county sheriff, a deputy, a police officer, they all go through this training. That training has to include bias training. Yes. And that training cannot be once in a lifetime. It's got to be every single year. Yes. It's got to be a constant conversation about who we are and how we have to be treated by each other. So first of all, you have to hold people accountable, but you can't hold them accountable if you don't bother to train them to begin with. And I will say this, Governor Deal has actually done a little bit of this, but we got to do a lot more. So first is training. Second is accountability. We ask our law enforcement officers to take on a high risk, but they are not beyond the law. And I was proud to work in the legislature to, for the first time, reduce the fact that when law enforcement officers in the state of Georgia committed crimes and were taken before a grand jury, they got to testify before the grand jury, but could not be questioned. We were able to change that. But there's more that has to be done. We have to make certain that when you do your job well, you are rewarded and protected, but when you do your job wrong, you are held accountable. And number 3, we've got to make certain that individuals understand what their rights are. Because often what happens in our country is that we cede our rights because we don't know they are ours. I was lucky enough to go to college and go to law school. I know what the Bill of Rights says. I know what the Miranda warning says. But I also know who can come in my house and who can come in my car. And the governor of Georgia has to make certain that everyone who enforces the laws of the state of Georgia understands the laws of the state of Georgia, and that the citizens of Georgia know their rights as well. My opponent likes to talk about public safety. But one of the challenges in public safety is that he doesn't believe that he's responsible for public safety officers making a good living. And if you want people to protect you, make sure they can protect themselves. And so my responsibility is to think about this in a comprehensive way, in a humane way, but to also never forget that what people see is often what they tell themselves about who we are. And I want to be the governor who, by my very presence, tells a whole new story about who Georgia is. There is some young woman who has an arm that is disattached. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do you. We're going to do you. How much time do I have? Okay, I've got 5 more minutes, so I'm going to do really short answers. Okay. You, and you. Yep. Okay. And if I did not point at you and say you, then you are not the one I'm talking to.
First, thank you so much for running and being that representative for our community. We have a small business right over here in Castleberry, Easy Fresh, and it's small, but it's growing. And the beauty of it is, we are growing, we have the support. However, as you know, as an entrepreneur, that access to capital is very difficult to get, especially as a woman-owned business, female-owned, minority-owned. And the challenge is, as it's growing, we don't qualify for certain things, or we're stuck in the middle. So can you talk a little in detail about that access to capital and your plan for a small business?
So she wants to know how I can help small businesses get the money they need to do their jobs. It's called access to capital. So I started a small business with my business partner, another woman. We had a manufacturing company. We were in hotels, we were in airports, we were in boutiques, and we were out in California and Arizona, one of the largest grocery stores in the country. And they liked us so much, they sent us an invoice saying they wanted to order a whole truckload. My business partner got excited and I got sad, because she was the CEO, because she was responsible for sales, and I was the COO, I was responsible for filling the orders. And I knew we couldn't do it because we had to automate our equipment. All of our bottles were hand assembled. And to move to automation would have cost us about $75,000. We went from bank to bank to bank. Nobody would loan us the money. We showed them an invoice saying we would make twice that amount if we simply could meet the order, and they would not give us the money, loan us the money. We were like, we'll pay whatever the interest rate is. We went to factoring companies and they said no, and we had to shut down our business. We grew to death. And that's what she's talking about. Small businesses that have hit the ceiling for where they are, but can't break through that ceiling without access to capital. The only way to break through that ceiling is to get that access. So my business partner and I, we created a company with another partner called Now Account, where we bought invoices from small businesses. We said, look, if somebody had been there for us, we would have been able to expand our company. We sulked, and then we started a new company. And we've been able to help create or retain thousands of jobs across Georgia by doing this. My goal is to take the same concept, not the same business, but the same concept, and bring it to the state. I want to create a $10 million small business financing fund. Because when a lot of us go to a bank, the bank looks at our business plan and then looks at us and says, I don't care how good the business plan is, I'm not going to give you the money. We have 55 counties in Georgia that do not have a locally chartered bank, which means it's not even a decision made by the people in the bank. We have a handful of counties that don't have banks at all. And so we need a state backstop that basically says to that bank, if you'll loan her the $50,000, we'll guarantee it with this $10 million fund. So you loan that $20,000, that $50,000, that $100,000, and we will be her credit guarantee. We'll be her co-signer. Because if the state of Georgia will do that, then we can get more access to capital to small businesses. Because these aren't businesses that need $500,000. Because unlike my opponent, not all of us can go out and borrow $500,000 from a good friend and not pay it back. And the reason I point this out is because when I recommended this $10 million fund, my opponent scoffed at it and said that anybody who needed to borrow money could get it from a bank, that you didn't have to have taxpayers invest. Now, this is someone who not only has used banks to get the money, he's actually borrowed money from us. He borrowed $3.6 million from the stimulus fund. So he borrowed taxpayer money to start his small business.
Wow, is that legal?
It is legal because the state, and here's why it was legal. Because we had a small business financing fund called the Federal Stimulus Program to invest in small businesses that were having a hard time getting access to capital. And my point is, if it's all right for Brian Kemp, it's all right for Georgia, and that's how I'm gonna help small businesses grow and do what they need to do.
Thank you so much for running. I'm a Marine Corps vet. And I want to know if the United States is really going to get serious and become vet friendly. Yes. Especially Georgia.
Yes. Yes.
A criminal got more rights than vets does. If a criminal commit a crime, they can get escorts to any hospital to get worked on. It's very complicated for vets to get the rights that we need because we served our country and we served it well. But when we come back home, everybody talk about vets, but nobody's really about vets. 34% of the homeless population is veterans out on the street. And we're not getting the attention that the legislators said we'll get. So I want to know, how can you help the vets of Georgia have equal opportunities just as much as the guy that commit the crime, that can go to Grady and get a bed. But I can't. You know, they send me to the vet hospital. But what if it's an emergency? I don't want to go to the emergency room. I want to be treated, not just as a citizen, but someone that has served the country, okay, and fought for the country. At least we can get some appreciation for what we've done.
Absolutely. So first of all, thank you for your service. Please. Now I'm going to talk from not only what I plan to do, but what I've already done. As Democratic leader in the House of Representatives, I'm the only candidate in this race. Now mind you, my opponent was in the Senate for some time. I'm the only candidate who actually passed laws to support our military families and our veterans, to make certain that you can get access to medical care. But one of the reasons we have to expand Medicaid in Georgia is that 32,000 veterans are being denied access to health care because they can't qualify without Medicaid expansion. We expand Medicaid, 32,000 veterans finally get access to medical insurance. Number two, we have to make certain that we actually invest in creating more clinic opportunities. One of the reasons that you're diverted from Grady is that it's a federal versus state issue. The Fed says that you're supposed to go to the VA. Grady says you're supposed to go to the VA, but you can't get to the VA. And when they send you to Grady, Grady says, I can't take you because we can't pay for you. If we create more healthcare opportunities in Georgia, we free up more beds and more opportunities, and we have more doctors available. Number three, we have to actually address and tackle homeless veterans in the state of Georgia. That is an abomination, and my mission is to end homeless veterans. We will not have them. For 10 years, I served on the board of the Gateway Center for the Homeless. We have done incredible work trying to help veterans, and what we know, it's not just about a bed. It's about sustainability. It's about support. It's about walking with you the whole time. It's not enough to put somebody off the street and into a shelter. You got to get them housing. You've got to make sure they get all the support they're entitled to. You've got to make sure that if they have a criminal record, that you work with them to get it dealt with. And we've got to be in this for you as long as you were in this for us. But it's also about making sure that anyone who leaves our military gets credit for the work you've done. So when you go to our colleges, you get credit and you get the ability to get better jobs and better pay. It's working with our private sector to make sure you're being hired. And it's not just doing it during an election cycle. It's making sure that we put the positions in place and the state government, and I will do so, to make certain that our military gets the treatment and the support they deserve for as long as we are here in the United States of America. Yes, sir.
Ms. Abrams, I'm Jason Hunter. I'm one of the volunteers on your campaign. I have a question in regards to my former career. I'm not a military veteran by any means, and I want to thank you for your testimony and your question. But I'm a wanted law enforcement veteran out of Florida, and I had a terminal illness 20 months ago that I was cured at Emory University Hospital. And my question is, as a former law enforcement officer in Florida that was wounded and injured there and allowed to work on the Department of the Georgia Bureau of Private Detectives in this state, what can we do to stop them from creating policy creations that deny me the right to be a law enforcement officer in the state of Georgia based off my prior medical records when I've been cured? I feel like I've been cured of the issue. I feel strong again. I feel that I'm capable to perform certain duties that I'm limited to, that I'm no longer limited to. So what can we do to stop Secretary of State Brian Kemp from making those policies at the state level so that I can become a law enforcement officer in this state?
Sure. So the question is, how do we make certain that those who transfer from other states have the opportunity for employment when they move to Georgia, especially in law enforcement? Now, I'm not specifically familiar with your issue, but I can tell you that one of the responsibilities of the governor is to work very closely with all of the departments, with Post, which does certification, but also with anyone responsible for making and promulgating those rules to make sure that we are creating rules that make sense. And this goes back to small business ownership, and I'm talking about you, but it's a larger conversation. I was talking to a gentleman at the start of this campaign who wanted to start his own private detective company, but he couldn't do so because the people who are in charge of it don't want anyone new coming into the system. And so the very people who get appointed to those commissions block people from being able to enter those jobs. The governor's responsibility is to make appointments to almost every board and commission in the state. I'm going to appoint people who actually want other people to be successful in the state of Georgia. That's one of the ways we change things. It's appointing people who are diverse and who experience things other than the traditional experiences. But it's also recognizing that, for example, Georgia has a lot of laws on the books about procurement, saying that minority businesses, that disadvantaged businesses should have access to jobs and contracts. Those laws are on the books, but the rules for enforcement say that you have to meet certain requirements that are well beyond the capacity of most small businesses. So the rules are designed to completely make the law irrelevant. That changes when you have a governor who plans to make the laws and the rules match. And that's why I'm running to be the next governor of Georgia. You get the very last question, make it profound and thoughtful and life-altering.
I'll do my best. I've been canvassing for the Democratic Party since before I could vote, but recently I've been troubled by what I've been seeing from the Democratic Party. It opposed the primary campaign of Bernie Sanders. It opposed the primary campaign of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. It seems to be holding different standards in the Me Too movement, whether someone who is accused of sexual assault is a Republican or a Democrat. And Democrats in the Brett Kavanaugh hearing seem to drop the principle that was referred to earlier of innocent until proven guilty. I'm wondering if you can speak to your relationship with the Democratic Party and your ability to stand up to it.
I'm a Democrat, and as I think it was, I'm trying to remember which raconteur said it, but I'm not a part of any organized party. I'm a Democrat, so it was a joke. And here's what they meant. Here's what was meant by that. Part of the beauty of the Democratic Party is we create space for everyone. We create space for the LGBTQ community, for wounded law enforcement, for the military, for everyone. And that means that everyone's voices are added to the conversation. And sometimes it turns into a symphony, and sometimes it is a cacophony, and you can't hear a thing. I am not running to lead the Democratic Party of America. I am not part of the DNC formally. I'm running to be the governor of the state of Georgia. And the best way to signal what I want the Democratic Party to be is to live my values. There are those who would tell me I should not talk about criminal justice reform, that I should not talk about the LGBTQ community, that I should not talk about issues relating to those who are in the immigrant population, that I should leave alone certain conversations. I'm going to talk about it. I ran a campaign about being in debt. I'm not supposed to talk about the fact that I have a payment plan with the IRS, because that's not something you do when you're running as a candidate. My most effective way to rebut any discrimination and any derogatory behavior is to be a living example of what is right and what can be accomplished. And so I cannot speak to the poor mistakes made by anyone else, but I can tell you who I am. And what I would ask you to do is look at my campaign, look at my narrative, look at my rhetoric, and look at my record. Because I will stand up to anybody about what I have done and what I will do. And I hope that what you hear from me is not a refutation of what you said, but a commitment to be the best person I can be, and to ask you to hold me accountable if I'm not doing that. That's the only thing I can do, and that's my most profound responsibility. Do something that is very important to me. I love all of you. I would like to take a selfie with all of you. I would like to I would like to go to sleep sometime this year. There are a whole lot of you. But we have one of the most impressive selfie takers in America in our midst.
Cory Booker.
Yes, he is a state senator, U.S. senator. Yes, he is a former mayor. But what he is extraordinary at is he has the wingspan of a condor and can take a selfie with everybody in this room. And so I'm going to ask Senator Cory Booker to come up here and take a selfie for us.
All right, so we're going to do two things, everybody. The first is we're going to do a little bit of a video, if you don't mind. Okay. And I'm going to just pretend like I'm just having a private meeting with Stacey, and then I'm going to say we're here with some friends and turn around, and I'm hoping you all can make some noise. Can you do that? Sure. Not until I turn around, and please make some noise so loud that you wake up. Please make so much noise that you wake up some folks in Jersey for me. Okay? All right, so here we go. We're about to do this. Hi, Stacey. We're here in a barber shop.
We are in a barbershop. We're in Castleberry Hills. It's a historic neighborhood in Atlanta. And it's one of the areas I'm eager to turn out to vote because it's one of the ways we can win this election.
We got some folk with us, right? All right. Now one selfie. One selfie. Hold on a second. I will send it to everybody. Just give me a second.
It will be on our Facebook.
It'll be
Airdrop it. Come on now. We're millennials.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
It's secure. Not on my watch, and our special town hall with Stacey Abrams and Senator Cory Booker. Look forward to future episodes of Not on My Watch at www.notonmywatchtv.com. And if you'd like to support, make sure to support us at the Human TV Network at human.tv/support. Thank you.
Much too complex. Too complex. Much too complex. Too complex. Too complex. Too complex.